wasn't even planning on speaking.
You got a whole different perspective than I do. Absolutely. Well, I just kind of want to gauge understanding of what people know. Can I just get a show of hands of who's familiar with Amendment 2? If you have any, if you've heard of it, if you know that it's on the ballot, if you know what it is. Representative Proctor, I'm glad that you raised your hand. All jokes aside, so I'm going to start all the way from the beginning. Not necessarily the beginning, but our Kentucky Constitution has not been updated, or the educational aspect of our Kentucky Constitution has not been updated since 1891. When women couldn't even vote yet, moms had no say in anything about what education looks like in Kentucky. We barely even drove cars. I don't even think we drove cars. So much has changed since 1891. Nobody in this room even knows. So, with all that being said, within the past several years, we've had different initiatives be introduced in our Kentucky State Legislature that have tried to introduce versions of school choice in our state. But every single time those have been introduced, our Kentucky courts have knocked those down, and their reason has been look at the Constitution, which has this common schools language, which they've interpreted as our public schools, saying that our state constitution only allows that for us to fund public schools from grades K through 12, whereas the state can fund our private universities and colleges through Keys money and other state-funded scholarships, and our state can subsidize various child care programs through different grants that are, again, privatized institutions. But when it comes to our state constitution, there is no sort of choice or options or opportunities for funding outside the system of public schools. So, with that being said, our wonderful legislators down in Frankfort this past session had passed a bill with more than two-thirds support in both chambers, to put this ballot initiative on our amendment. Put this amendment on our ballot this November. So that's what we have, and that's what that looks like now. So I'll read that ballot language real quick and then kind of go into some of the reasons why we think that that should be a good thing, why I think it should be, and hope that we'll have your vote too. But what that language will say is, to give parents choices and educational opportunities for their children, are you in favor of enabling the General Assembly to provide financial support for the education costs of students in kindergarten through 12th grade who are outside the system of common schools by amending the Constitution of Kentucky as stated? It is proposed that a new section will be added, yada yada. The General Assembly may provide financial support for the education of students outside the system of common schools. The General Assembly may exercise this authority by law, several different sections of the Constitution notwithstanding. So essentially what that says is that the General Assembly can provide funding for students outside the system of common schools. It may provide that. It doesn't say that it has to. There's no sort of program that's attached to that. There's no sort of funding that's attached to that. So you'll hear people say that this takes money away from public schools and this hurts public schools. It absolutely does none of the above, because no funding is attached and no programs are created. It simply allows the General Assembly to have a conversation of what that might be. And then where all those sections of the Constitution where it says notwithstanding, those are sections of the Constitution that require the General Assembly to still provide funding for public schools, that require them to provide adequate funding, substantial funding, to keep our public schools still running. Because our public schools are great. Everybody will agree with that. They provide jobs in our communities, support our teachers, support our students. They're great, but a public school is not the right fit for every single student. I'm sure we all can probably think of at least one person who would have benefited from being in a different sort of school or learning environment, whether that be socially or academically, whatever that might look like. So I'll leave it at that. That's the general consensus of what the Constitution does, or what this amendment does. I've got two handouts, and I think that Cole has one as well, but this one is a map of the United States. I know it's kind of small for everybody, but you can see that Kentucky is here in green, and all the other states are all these different colors. This green means that we have no school choice programs or no school choice laws, and we have no charter school laws in our state, active charter school laws. Every single other state that has a color has either a school choice law or an active charter school law, except for North Dakota. 48 states in our country have some sort of amendment to in their constitution, in their legislative laws that allow their students to have educational opportunities. But here in Kentucky and in North Dakota, that doesn't exist. And our students are getting left behind, and we see that happen. So we're on an island without opportunity. We want to make sure that Kentucky gets brought into the 21st century, out of its constitution that hasn't been updated from 1891, and that we're giving all of our students opportunities. So encourage you to take one of these before you leave, and then if you could just sign up for more information, we'd be happy to send you some emails or just reach out for volunteer opportunities. We've got a pretty large coalition that includes Cole's group as well that is doing grassroots effort and trying to just spread the word as much as we can, because everybody needs to know about Amendment 2 and know what good it will do for our communities, and most especially for our students, because that's what this is about, is our Kentucky students. So, thank you.
As we approach election day, or election time, do you expect to see a well-funded contingency opposing Amendment 2?
Yeah, so there is a group that's out there that's backed by our teachers' unions and superintendent organizations, and their whole argument is protect our public schools, protect our schools, and they say that this is going to take money away from public schools, which I can say with 100% certainty that it will not, because there's no funding that's attached to this, and it specifically says in the amendment that we have to protect that funding. So not only that, but it will also increase the funding that goes into Kentucky education and increase per pupil funding to each student at every school. Yes, there will be an effort against it. We have already seen our governor come out and be anti this amendment, which is unfortunate because this is great for our students. And so wanting to make sure that we're keeping that focus on the student, not on the system, not on a school, but the focus on the student, because our students are worth it and they're more important than a system or school ever could be. So, yeah.
I'd like to know, could you possibly put that in local papers? Because just like here, a lot of people didn't know about it and tell that we're the only state besides Dakota that doesn't have it.
Yeah, so we've been slowly trying to work on getting op-eds into the papers. I know like Link NKY has covered this amendment since it came out as a bill during session and then again since, but truthfully, the general populace is unplugged from the local elections right now, and I hope that will increase as we get out there further, but we're getting closer to election day. But the biggest thing is word of mouth, and you see the teachers' unions be able to.
Grant County News, so you get to the Grant County News.
That I can do. I will add that to my list. And if you're interested in writing an op-ed for Grant County News to help support it, then that we can do.
A lot of teachers are going to run against it. A lot of teachers.
I understood this to be a program where the dollars would follow the student. And the way I'm hearing you say this is there is no funding or anything other than what we already have.
So that is certainly an option, is that there are many options of what this could look like after it passes in November. The dollars could follow the student. We could have different innovative schools created in Kentucky. We could have additional outside of school programs created. It genuinely just comes up to the fact that right now we can't even have a conversation of what that looks like. Our students are stuck with one option, and it's their local public school. And if you have a child that gets bullied in school or that has a certain need that isn't being met, they're stuck there if their means can't allow them to go somewhere else. So there's no program that's created with this. So once it passes November 5th, Election Day, our General Assembly will reconvene in January, and they will be able to begin that conversation of what will this look like in our state, what's the best option, because all these 48 states that have some sort of choice, it looks different in every single state. What works in Ohio does not work in Florida, and does not work in New York, and does not work in Utah. But the bottom line is every state has something besides us in North Dakota, and we're just getting left behind. So.
I was just going to say, one concern that I think that we have is that people vote a straight ticket. If they're voting a straight ticket, then they're not catching it. How are you making sure that people know to go ahead and that there's an amendments there that they have to?
Yeah, so we do have a concerted effort, and that's something that I'm working on directly is our Yes on To amendment. So that's what this page is saying yes on to, so that people can see, whether that be a sign or whether that be on social media or that be in their church bulletin. Any way that we're trying to get this outreach out is that they see this logo and they know yes on to, that there are amendments this year and they need to vote yes on to. Yeah, that is the unfortunate thing. People do vote straight ticket, and that's why I would encourage people not to vote straight ticket, because then you just get into that habit, but that's a personal opinion.
I don't
So
think they understand that by voting the straight ticket, that's what's going to happen. That's the problem. They don't understand that, vote the straight ticket, and then, I wonder where that amendment was. Well, I guess it's not on the ballot, and then it just...
I will add too, there's another amendment on the ballot, that's Amendment 1, and this is a non-citizens voting amendment. So there are laws in Kentucky that don't allow non-citizens to vote in any of our elections, but it's not instituted in our Constitution. So that's all this does. And then the First Amendment will do is just add that as a protection within our Constitution. So if you're in favor of non-citizens, keeping non-citizens from voting in Kentucky, then vote yes on both 1 and 2.
Like you said earlier about the funding, you were saying basically this is just to keep them a month before the House, and then allows them to be able to walk in and decide which room they want to go into in January. Is that
Exactly. Yep. It opens the pencil box for them to draw the map of what education will look like in the future. And we hope that Kentuckians will have a say in what that looks like, and they will have a say in what that looks like, and that's by being able to vote in this election. So now, I know Cole's a parent, and he probably has another unique perspective on this, but I mean, bottom line is this is about giving parents a choice for where to send their children to school and help them find the best route for their child's success, because the parent is the one who understands that the most. And at the end of the day, this is all about the student and helping them thrive in our country and in our communities and in the world, because this place is left for them moving forward. So again, I have more maps of these and a bunch of this, so if you'd like to grab some before you leave and leave your information, that would be great. Thank you.
I'll make my remarks brief. I'm Cole Cusick. I'm with the Commonwealth Policy Center. Both Ellie and I are products of private education. So not to brag on private education, but I think we're doing okay. I haven't been in this room since we did our primary candidate forum with Representative Proctor, Representative Rawlings, who is going to be your next state senator, and we had a robust debate between TJ Roberts and Ed Massey, and we all saw how that turned out, and their primaries as well. So it's great to be back in this room where some great things happen. I recognize some of your faces that were at that event. On Amendment 2, we have some materials as well. I know a lot of churches and pastors are not aware of this issue. Even a lot of private schools aren't even aware that this is on the ballot. I will caution you that I just heard on a call that 72% of general election voters are in favor of school choice, but they would generally get confused on an amendment, which is what happened a couple of years ago on our abortion ballot initiative. So this is the most important thing Kentucky will be voting on this election cycle. Donald Trump will win in a landslide in this state. Many of our elected officials are not in close races, thank God. Our representation here, Representative Hart and Representative Proctor, I know will have great races. And there's only a few around the state that will even be close. So this election is going to be huge. Andy Beshear just won on 2 things this last election cycle besides his name and his money. He also won on the 2 issues he ran on, which was abortion and public education. So this amendment is by no means going to pass or to pass easily. So we have to do everything in our power to put this at the top of our list in our conversations. Yes, it's great to talk federal politics and bash Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and everything they're doing, but making sure that voters at your church and in your community, your friends and family, understand that this is very important. I talked to a pastor about 6 months ago, and he said that with inflation and with the budgets tightening, that he had to take his child out of Calvary in Independence, and he had to bring his kids to Connor this year, and it was very tough on him. And unfortunately, that's what's on the chopping block for many families, is the private education that they've loved. Now, at least they've had that opportunity. Many families have never had the opportunity to go to a school of their choice and to provide something else. So I believe that this is going to be a net savings opportunity for the state. I pay $5,100 a year for my 2 children who are in private education. Do you know what the current number is per pupil in Kentucky currently? I know some of you do. But it's over $20,000 at this point per pupil to attend public education. Some of those are great schools, some of those are not great schools. But we're going to take the funds, I pray, at this state with a very strong Republican legislature, with all their faults. They have done something correct, which is passing school choice a few years ago. Unfortunately, the state Supreme Court struck that down, but I do believe, and we're going to be in the fight, as is Ellie, with having the best, most robust school choice program, I pray, in the nation. And if not, we're going to gradually get there, but we're going to have a seat at the table to make sure that private schools are not going to have a lot of curriculum requirements and demands from the state to come in and turn them into the same schools that they've destroyed in the process. So that's a lot of the concerns I've heard from private schools, is we don't want the Department of Education coming in and requiring us to teach things that go against our values. And we're going to make sure that those religious liberty and conscience protections are still at the table. So these are what you can hand out at your church and to your friends. Alongside over there, we've got some materials that answer some of the frequently asked questions. But with the Commonwealth Policy Center, just a quick background, we are a 501c3 nonprofit Christian public policy group. That is a mouthful. But we are involved in elections. We will be making our endorsements here soon. There are a couple candidates here in the room that I'm sure are likely to get our endorsement because of their strong stand on life, religious liberty, fiscal integrity, and amongst some other things. And, so we're involved. We recruit candidates to run for office, and we train them. And we want to make sure that they're doing the right things when they get in office, and that we're a voice for conservative Christian principles at the Capitol in our elections. So if you're interested in what we do, we can talk afterwards, and I have my information available when you need it. So thank you.
Thanks, Cole. Not bad for someone who wasn't planning on speaking. And that concludes our meeting for this month, and looking forward to having you all come back again next month. Thanks.
Eric, can I throw out a couple dates for people?
Yes.
Some things. So if you want to mark your calendars, you guys are early planners. On October 15th, we'll be having a town hall at Florence Baptist Church. And the people who will be speaking are Mayor Larry Solomon from Union. He's going to be talking about the marijuana that they put on to the voters. It's the dispensaries will be on there, not is marijuana legal or not. The legislature already passed that, but what does that mean and what's that look like? Because again, people don't understand initiatives. So he's going to be talking about that, like about the Union Promenade. Jesse Brewer will be there from the county, talking about where Boone County, why they opted out of the dispensaries of doing that. And then I was just going to tell people a little bit about the amendments. We got to get that out there so people know. So we'd love everybody to come. So mark it on the 15th, and I appreciate Cole's strong support, thinking I'm going to win my race. I hope I do, but I have a very strong Democrat opponent. She's actively fundraising. The one on the 15th will be at 6, from 6 to 7:30. We're going to keep our remarks brief. Really, I would like to hear from the people. So if you guys come with questions, that's what it's really going to be about. And really just to give some more exposure to our county officials that you guys may not see as much, and our mayors that are making a lot of these decisions. So an opportunity. So I'll be 6 to 7:30 at Florence Baptist Church. That's on Mount Zion, the big church right there off of 75. And then I'm going to be having a fundraiser that Schickle is going to be holding for me on October 3rd at Triple Crown Country Club, with more details to come on that. But my opponent had a really big fundraiser there the other night. Amy McGrath and a bunch of very powerful attorneys, none of them from within the 60th district. So that's where the money is coming from. So anyways, just mark your calendars for those things, and more details will be coming, but just a heads up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other announcements? Okay, now I'll let you go. and if you can, please give us a hand in stacking the chairs back up so we can return the room the way we found it.